Everyone remembers the Hedge Knight as a quiet, character-driven story. Small moments, simple conversations, a world that unfolds slowly. But when HBO brought it to the screen, something shifted. Not loudly, not obviously, but in ways that subtly changed how we see Dunk, Egg, and the world around them. Some changes made the story richer, some made it funnier, and a few quietly rewired the meaning of key moments in ways most viewers didn't even notice. Today, we're breaking down the most important changes, the ones that actually matter. Not the surface-level stuff, but the details that reshape characters, relationships, and future consequences. Let's start with the first few. Number 10. Extra world building and expanded nobles. One of the quiet but meaningful changes in the adaptation is how much extra space it gives to the nobles surrounding Dunk and Egg. In the novella, most of these characters exist purely to serve the plot. They appear, say what's necessary, and move on. The show, however, slows things down just enough to let them breathe. Suddenly, these knights and lords don't feel like background furniture. They feel like people, flawed, proud, petty, and sometimes ridiculous. Lionel Baratheon is the most obvious example, but he's far from the only one. Characters like Sir Donald and other minor nobles get added bits of dialogue and personality that weren't on the page. A quick anecdote here, an offhand comment there, it all adds texture. What this does, more than anything, is reinforce how uneven and compromised the knightly system really is. The Kingsguard, for instance, doesn't come across as especially noble or elite. Instead, it mirrors what we've already seen elsewhere in this world. Positions bought with gold, influence earned through birth, and honor treated as optional. That thematic through line connects this story more clearly to the larger universe. The steward also gets extra attention, turning a throwaway book detail into a recurring presence. Small habits, repeated behavior. These things ground the setting and make it feel lived in. Even knights who barely affect the plot leave an impression. None of this radically alters the story, but it changes how it feels. The world becomes fuller, messier, and more human. And for a story that relies so heavily on atmosphere and social structure, that extra world building goes a long way. Number 9. The age gap between Dunk and Egg. The age dynamic between Dunk and Egg is one of the most important relationships in the story, and the show subtly reshapes it. On paper, Egg is 9 years old, and Dunk is still very young himself. They're closer in age than most people realize, almost two kids pretending to be something more. On screen, that balance shifts. Egg remains a child, both physically and emotionally, but Dunk feels older. Not ancient, just seasoned enough to feel like a mentor rather than a peer. This one change completely reframes their bond. Instead of two youngsters figuring things out together, we get a clearer teacher-student relationship. And honestly, it works. The show leans into Dunk as a protector and moral anchor. He feels more grounded, more world-weary, and more responsible. Egg, meanwhile, comes across as sharper, more curious, and quietly smarter than the people around him. Their conversations now feel like lessons, sometimes intentional, sometimes accidental. This shift also smooths out the emotional logic of the story. Dunk's protectiveness feels more natural. His authority feels earned. And Egg's admiration makes more sense when he's looking up to someone who clearly feels older and stronger. What we lose is a bit of the awkward, two kids playing knight energy from the books. What we gain is clarity and emotional weight. Their relationship becomes easier for viewers to instantly understand, especially those unfamiliar with the source material. It's a trade-off, but one that strengthens the adaptation's tone and pacing. Number 8. Dunk and Egg's first meeting. First meetings matter. They set the tone for everything that follows. And while the show stays mostly faithful to Dunk and Egg's first encounter, it trims and reshapes it in subtle ways. The core beats are still there. Dunk meets a strange, confident boy on the road. The dialogue largely matches the spirit of the original. The dynamic, gruff knight, sharp-tongued child is instantly clear. But some of the smaller, more playful moments are quietly removed. In the book, their meeting has an almost accidental intimacy. Dunk catches Egg bathing, which immediately establishes embarrassment, humor, and imbalance. Later, there's a quick exchange where Egg is told to close his mouth, only to ask how he's supposed to answer questions if he does. It's a tiny joke, but it perfectly captures Egg's personality: literal, clever, and slightly annoying. The show cuts moments like this, likely for pacing and tone. Instead of leaning into awkward comedy, it smooths the interaction into something more streamlined and cinematic. The result is cleaner, but also a bit less quirky. What changes is the texture of their relationship. In the book, their bond starts messy and awkward, full of small misunderstandings. In the show, it starts more confidently, almost purposefully, as if fate is already nudging them together. It's not a bad change, just a different one. The adaptation prioritizes momentum and clarity over small comedic beats. And while some charm is lost, the essentials remain intact. You still understand who these two are. You still feel the spark between them. It just arrives a little faster and a little smoother. Number 7, Dunk's Dive, a plotline that never existed. One of the strangest additions in the show is the idea that Dunk might intentionally lose a joust. This entire subplot, where the steward suggests Dunk take a fall so powerful people can profit from betting, doesn't exist in the novella at all. And it feels off. In the books, Dunk's sense of honor is simple but unshakable. He doesn't always understand politics, but he understands fairness. The idea that he would even consider throwing a fight directly clashes with how he sees himself as a knight, even a hedge knight with nothing to his name. The show presents this moment as a moral test. Dunk is poor. He has no armor worth mentioning, no money, no future security. And here's an offer that could solve all of that in one dishonest moment. For a modern audience, the temptation makes sense. But narratively, it goes nowhere. Dunk never gets the chance to joust anyway. The trial by combat interrupts everything. So this added conflict doesn't change the plot, doesn't deepen consequences, and doesn't lead to character growth. It simply exists and then disappears. That's what makes it feel unnecessary. Instead of reinforcing Dunk's values through action, the show tells us about a moral dilemma and then removes the payoff. In the books, Dunk proves who he is by standing his ground publicly, not by wrestling with a hypothetical shortcut. If anything, this subplot slightly weakens his character. It introduces doubt where the story didn't need it. Dunk's strength has always been his straightforward nature. Complicating that simplicity doesn't add realism. It muddies the core of who he is. Number 6, Red and Beanie, expanding the world through small characters. Unlike some changes, the introduction of Red and Beanie actually works. These two characters didn't exist in the novella, but they serve a clear purpose, making the world feel more populated, more alive, and more unequal. In the original story, nearly every character is male, aside from a single performer. The show corrects that imbalance by adding women who aren't nobles, knights, or royalty, but still feel authentic to the setting. Red and Beanie are sharp, sarcastic, and painfully aware of their place in the world. They mock Dunk, not out of cruelty, but out of familiarity. They've seen dozens of hopeful knights pass through with dreams bigger than their skills. To them, Dunk isn't special. He's just another man chasing glory that probably won't come. And that's the point. Their presence reinforces one of the core themes of Dunk and Egg's journey: the divide between nobles and small folk. These women exist on the edges of noble life, close enough to see its hypocrisy, far enough to never benefit from it. What's clever is how little screen time they need to make an impact. A few lines of dialogue, a few reactions, and suddenly, the social hierarchy feels sharper, more uncomfortable, more real. This is an example of adaptation done right. The show adds something new without overwriting the original message. Red and Beanie don't change the plot, but they deepen the world Dunk is moving through. Sometimes, small additions do the heaviest lifting. Number 5, the shooting star. Who gets the wisdom? The shooting star scene is quiet, gentle, easy to miss, and yet it subtly shifts the balance between Dunk and Egg. In the novella, Dunk is the one who sees the falling star. He reflects on its meaning, thinking that a falling star brings luck, and that since no one else saw it, the luck must be his alone. It's a hopeful thought from a man with very little going for him, a private moment of optimism. The show flips this. Instead, Egg spots the shooting star and explains its meaning to Dunk. On the surface, it's a tiny change, but thematically, it matters. It reinforces a pattern the show leans into again and again. Egg is the smarter one, the better educated one, the one who understands the world beyond brute strength. Dunk, meanwhile, becomes more instinctual than reflective. He listens, he learns, he protects, but he doesn't always grasp the deeper meaning of things. This change strengthens their mentor-student dynamic, but in an unexpected direction. Dunk teaches Egg how to survive physically. Egg teaches Dunk how to think. It's a more balanced partnership than it first appears. What we lose is Dunk's quiet inner life. In the book, that moment shows he's not just muscle. He dreams, he hopes, he believes in signs. The show externalizes that wisdom through Egg instead. It's not worse, just different. And it signals very clearly what kind of story this adaptation wants to tell. One where knowledge, not just honor, shapes destiny. Number 4, the fortune teller. Foreshadowing without subtlety. One of the most obvious additions in the show is the fortune teller scene, and it's also one of the most divisive. This moment doesn't exist in the novella at all, and its purpose is very clear: foreshadowing. The fortune teller delivers a string of dark, ominous prophecies about Egg's future. To viewers familiar with the lore, it's immediately recognizable as a reference to events far down the timeline. The problem isn't what is being foreshadowed, it's how directly it's done. In the books, prophecy is usually layered. Hints are buried in symbolism, dreams, or offhand remarks that only make sense in hindsight. Here, the show almost spells it out. It feels less like a mystery and more like a spoiler disguised as mysticism. Narratively, the scene serves two functions. First, it nudges viewers toward the truth of Egg's identity. Second, it signals that this story won't remain small forever. Big consequences are coming. Tragedy is inevitable. But the cost of this clarity is tension. When the future is stated so plainly, it reduces the emotional uncertainty of the journey. Instead of wondering what might happen, the audience starts waiting for the prophecy to be fulfilled. It's a bold choice, but also a heavy-handed one. The show trades subtle dread for immediate intrigue, and whether that works depends entirely on how much mystery you prefer in your storytelling. Number 3, new humor and added jokes. Another noticeable shift is the increased use of humor. The novella has wit, but it's restrained. Dry observations, situational irony, and character-based comedy. The show turns that volume up. There are more jokes, louder jokes, and yes, a fair amount of crude humor. Some of it lands beautifully. Dunk's awkwardness, Egg's blunt honesty, and the absurdity of knightly traditions all benefit from sharper comedic timing. These moments humanize the characters and make the world feel less suffocating than earlier entries in the franchise. Other jokes, however, push into territory that feels unnecessary. Bodily humor and exaggerated gags sometimes undercut the seriousness of the setting. For viewers expecting the somber tone of previous series, this can feel jarring. Still, the humor serves a clear purpose: contrast. By lightening the tone, the show makes darker moments hit harder later. It also distinguishes this story from larger political epics. This isn't about thrones and wars. It's about people stumbling through a rigid system that often doesn't deserve their respect. The risk, of course, is imbalance. Too much humor can cheapen the stakes, but used carefully, it gives the story warmth. In this case, the show mostly succeeds. The comedy doesn't rewrite the story, it reframes it, making the journey feel more personal and approachable. Number 2, Duncan's expanded backstory. The show makes a major structural change by expanding Duncan's past. In the books, his childhood is barely sketched, just enough detail to explain his values and insecurities. The adaptation decides that isn't enough. We're given extended flashbacks to Flea Bottom. We see Duncan as a boy. We meet his friends. We watch him struggle, fail, and form attachments. One character is even reimagined and turned into a romantic interest, adding emotional stakes that never existed in the source material. This expansion does something important. It explains why Dunk is the way he is. His loyalty to small folk, his discomfort around nobles, and his rigid sense of fairness all feel earned rather than assumed. At the same time, it shifts the story's focus. Instead of discovering Dunk through his choices in the present, we're guided by his past. The mystery of who he is gets replaced by explanation. That's not inherently bad, but it changes the storytelling style. The book trusts the reader to infer. The show prefers to show its work. For many viewers, this added depth strengthens emotional connection. For purists, it risks over-explaining a character whose charm came from simplicity. Number 1, Egg running away, a change with real consequences. The biggest and most consequential change comes at the very end. Egg running away without his father's approval. In the books, Egg's family fully supports his decision to travel with Dunk. He's given protection, permission, and even a signet ring. His journey is dangerous, but sanctioned. That context matters. The show removes that safety net. By having Egg lie and flee, the story introduces tension that didn't previously exist. Dunk is no longer just a mentor. He's unknowingly complicit in defying a prince. Their bond now rests on a secret that could fracture everything if revealed. This single change reframes the entire future of the story. It introduces guilt, risk, consequences. Every step forward now carries the threat of discovery. Dramatically, it's effective. It raises stakes immediately and gives future seasons built-in conflict. But it also alters Egg's character. In the books, he's curious and bold, but not deceptive. Here, he's willing to lie for freedom. This isn't a small divergence. It's a foundational shift. Whether it strengthens the narrative or creates long-term problems depends entirely on how the story continues. But one thing is certain, this change matters more than any other, and nothing unfolds the same way after it. If you made it this far, you're clearly someone who actually cares about storytelling. Not just what changed, but why it changed.